This is Spunky.
And Snarky.
And we say,
Welcome to the show. Welcome back. I can't believe it's already mid-May. This year is going by too fast, and I don't know about all you, but I need a vacation. But there's no place to go. But yeah, summer's coming, and what better to talk about than a little reminder to stay safe. Today we're looking at an episode of Dragnet that we've been talking about since the beginning of this podcast because it's pretty epic.
It's probably the most famous, besides the Christmas episode.
Yeah. Today we're looking at Dragnet 1967, the LSD story. Let's dive in.
Today we're watching Dragnet 1967 from Season 1, Episode 1, called The LSD Story. Dragnet ran for 4 seasons from January 12, 1967 to April 16, 1970, and the year of each season was put on the title screen to differentiate it from the 1950s Dragnet series.
So if you never watched Dragnet before, it always opens up with this is the city. Los Angeles, California. It's very iconic. And there's a long monologue by our main character, Joe Friday. So in this one, it opens up and it's like, it's a fine place to enjoy life. There's places reserved just for kids and for people who are young and feel young. Places to go when you're old and beginning to search for something that doesn't often exist in the places they look for it. So they're talking about some people try to find salvation in church or at the observatory. They have those really nice shots of LA. There's like nice scenic views that kind of go over different things. You might search for a college degree and it shows like UCLA. But one thing's for sure, whatever they're looking for cannot be found inside a number 5 capsule. When they try, that's where I come in. I carry a badge. So the story is all done almost like reading a police report. Dragnet started off as a radio show. And I can kind of see that because it's a lot of monologue and it's like he's reading the police report and then sometimes they'll have the like conversation between the characters. So he starts off and is like, it's Tuesday, March 15th. It's fair in Los Angeles. And we're working the day watch out of juvenile narcotics. My partner is Bill Gannon. The boss is Captain Richie. My name is Friday. So then he goes to talk about how a new powerful drug is coming on the scene and it's giving people like dangerous hallucinations and it's becoming more popular on the streets. And then they get a call to the police department. There's a complaint of someone with a face painted like an Indian chewing the bark off a tree. So Joe Friday and Bill Gannon arrive at this vacant lot and they find this boy with his head in the sand, like laying on the ground. They pull him up and he just goes on this horrible, funny monologue. He's like, there's a pilot light. And he's wearing a jacket that says live and let live down with the fuzz. And they find some sugar cubes in his pocket. Blue Boy just keeps going off. He's like, I'm not here. I'm over there now. I'm not here anymore. My hair is green and I'm a tree. Which is the line we use all the time. Bill and Joe are just like over it. They're like, it's time to come down to the precinct. And he like freaks out. And he's like, you disbelieve us. And like he rips Bill's sleeve. Bill just gives the face like, this fucking punk. Anyway, so they put the cuffs on him and Blue Boy rattles off all these different colors and he's like, I hear them all. Red, blue, green. I hear them. And they're like, yeah, we'll listen to them all down at the office.
So Bill and Joe take Blue Boy to the hospital and a doctor determines that he is under the influence of an unknown drug. Then he is taken back to the station in the narcotics unit where he is questioned. He has read his rights again and says that there's no law against taking his kind of drug. They ask about the sugar cubes, and he says that they are the keys to the kingdom, man. And then starts rambling again, and then stands up and flips a blotter and papers off the desk. Joe tells him to stay in the chair, and then Captain Richie comes in and tells Joe and Bill to bring the sugar cubes to the crime lab for analysis. And then we cut to the Scientific Investigations Division and meet forensic chemist Ray Murray. And he states that the drug that they found was developed in Switzerland by accident. It's called lysergic acid diethylamide tartrate, commonly known as LSD-25. And it causes hallucinations, severe nausea, along with aches and pains, as well as anxiety and depression. Sergeant Friday states that there are no laws to cover the use or sale of LSD.
Back at the juvenile division, Blue Boy has been identified as Benjamin Carver, and Benji's parents show up and they're briefed about the situation, but they don't feel like there's any cause for concern because it's like, there's no law against this. It's not like he's doing marijuana. The father's like, there's no laws about this, so we're leaving. And the mom is like, oh, my little Benji want her to fly. He just needs to clean up his face and he'll be fine. It's like they're in total denial.
Yeah.
Captain Richie tells the detectives to book Benji, and the parents are like, for what? And they're like, Section 601 of the Welfare Code, in danger of leading an idle, dissolute, or immoral life. May 10th, Tuesday. So the case was heard in juvenile court, and Benji was placed on probation, released to his parents. And then a couple days later, Friday and Gannon join in with some other sergeants to question these two individuals, Sandy and Edna May. Long story short, they bought some LSD for like $3 from Blue Boy, and they got sick. And one of the girls almost hurls in the office. Time goes by, and now it's October 5th, and LSD is increasing at an alarming rate, especially among juveniles, and finally a law gets passed so that they can pick people up because LSD is now listed as a dangerous drug. Monday, October 10th, Teddy Carstairs is brought in for possession of LSD, and he spills his guts and is like, I bought it from Blue Boy, and he's willing to testify against him. So a warrant is issued to pick up Benji Carver, and Joe and Bill head to Benji's house, but his mother is like, he moved out 3 months ago, and I don't know where he is, but I should have listened to you, because he's a mess.
Friday, December 9th, Joe and Bill are cruising the Sunset Strip, and they come across Sandy and Edna May, who had been arrested earlier. And they say that Blue Boy invited them to an acid party and gives Joe the address. They say that they're not doing acid ever again because it made them vomit all the time.
Those girls have to vomit all the time, vomit all the time, vomit all the time. They vomit all the time.
Joe and Bill drive to the house in the Hollywood Hills and ring the bell, and the door is unlocked. Joe smells weed and goes in and finds several people high on acid, including a lady trying to climb the walls, and the grossest fucking thing ever that almost made me vomit watching this was a painter eating paint off his paintbrush. Okay, I was going to save this till later, but I'm just going to say it right now. I saw this episode when I was very young. That scene scared me straight. I was like, I'm never doing drugs because I don't want to eat paint. Bill sees 100 caps of acid in an envelope on the table with some joints next to it. Joe turns on the lights, blinding everyone, and announces that they're all under arrest.
They were blinded by the light.
The paint eater guy tells Joe that Blue Boy left, and Friday calls in for officers to take in all the party goers, and finds out that a drugstore nearby has recently sold 3,000 empty number 5 capsules to a man fitting Benji Blue Boy's description. So they go to the drugstore, and the pharmacist, Ben Riddle, identifies Benji as the one who purchased the empty capsules and gives them his home address. Friday and Gannon arrive at an apartment building and get the key to Benji's apartment from the manager. Inside, they find Benji's friend, Philip Jameson, and a whole lot of drugs. Benji is on the other side of the room, motionless, having been that way for about an hour. And after telling Philip he wanted to get further out, Friday checks his pulse and declares, well, he made it. He's dead.
This scene is really interesting, though, because you see the one guy, and he's like, what happened to Benji? And they don't show Benji to, like, the very end, and then he's just sitting still with his, like, mouth open and his head up.
His eyes are open, too. I think he's just kind of, like, there.
It was interesting how they didn't show him until the very end. I thought that was a very suspenseful.
So the story you just seen and heard listening to this is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent. On December 15th, a coroner's inquest was held at the county morgue, Hall of Justice, City and County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the result of that inquest. At the inquest, the coroner's jury ruled that the 18-year-old suspect had administered himself an overdose of lysergic acid diethylamide in a combination with various barbiturates and had thus taken his own life. And on the screen it just says, Benjamin John Carver, deceased. And that's the end of the episode. So that's on the episode.
I still find the episode interesting, like, even now. There's a lot of monologue done over, and then it just shows them, like, walking to talk to the boss or in the car or whatever. But you think that could get boring, but it's very concise. And then it also had, like, the acid trippy music and, like, very suspenseful music that made it, like, very interesting still.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I could still watch this.
This episode did its job and scared me straight, because I was like, acid's fucking creepy. But yeah, I love the Jack Webb stuff.
I feel like it's well written, even though maybe the context isn't quite as relevant today. Like, it's still entertaining.
You ready to move on to the brain base?
Let's go.
Alright, welcome to the Brain Basement. We're going to talk about our love of crime dramas and more about drugs and other things.
I always love a good crime drama. We watched Dragnet, we watched Madam 12, we watched Emergency, which are all Jack Webb shows, and then, of course, you know, my love of Law & Order, and, of course, all the court TV. It's always good to have a mystery, and when there's nothing else on, there's always Forensic Files to fall back on.
I have been watching a lot of Dateline lately, which is almost as good as Forensic Files. It's true crime, but then sometimes I gotta take a break from that because then I'll start dreaming about crazy shit, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah. Because sometimes the real shit is so much more fucked up. I remember this one where, like, this guy was, like, a doctor and killed his wife and then fled the country. And he was so arrogant that he had, like, a I killed my wife Hotmail account. And then they were able to bait him to come back to the U.S. because they said he had some, like, settlement that he just had to come back and they would give him the money. And he was so arrogant that he thought he would be able to get in and out.
I remember that one.
Like, what a douche. If you got away with murder, just, like, lay low.
And shut the fuck up. And keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Not that we're advocating murder on this podcast.
Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, like I said before, this episode scared me straight as a child. Because I was like, I'm never doing drugs, because the shit, like, freaks me the fuck out. Yeah, especially that paint eating scene. I don't know why that freaked me out so much, but it really did.
I was talking to Spunky the other day, like, I had watched something where someone was talking about how they have taken hallucinogens, but more like mushrooms, like holistic stuff, not like LSD. But it's interesting how, like, certain drugs are labeled bad and certain drugs are labeled good, and how, like, there's all this stigma about different things. I guess I'm just one of those people, like, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, like, you're welcome to do what you want in life.
Don't do, like, heroin or meth. But
yeah, because that shit gonna ruin your life.
Yeah.
Well, like, heroin, you're gonna end up hurting someone.
But I don't judge people who do, like, weed or whatever. It's their body. As long as it's not a problem, like, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Whatever you do in the privacy of your own home, where you're not, like, hurting nobody. It's your own business.
Yeah. Oh my god, there's this movie called Death Drug that has Philip Michael Thomas in it, pre him being Tubbs in Miami Vice. The ending scene where he, like, freaks out on angel dust is hilarious. Go YouTube it if you haven't seen it.
And on that note, why don't we dive into the music spotlight?
Alright, welcome to the music spotlight. Today's topic is 60s drug songs.
AKA songs to eat paint to. Not literally, please don't eat paint. Spunky and Snarky do not endorse the eating of paint.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, our first 60s drug song is Jefferson Airplane, White Rabbit.
'Cause one pill makes you larger.
And one pill makes you small.
And the one that
Mother gives you.
do anything at all. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall.
It's a psychedelic trippy jam.
Yeah.
Moving along to number 2.
It's The Doors with Light My Fire.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Because you know that it would be untrue
You know that I would be a liar.
if I were to say to you,
Girl, we couldn't get much higher.
true story.
I always laugh when I think of the song because my mom would always say when they played the long version of the song on the radio that the DJ was taking a pee break because the extended version was like 7 minutes long.
Then at number 3, we got the Rolling Stones with Mother's Little Helper.
What a drag it is getting old. Ain't that the truth? This is about moms who need to keep up with their kids by taking a little pill. Number 4 is The Byrds with A Miles High.
This was on our Dad's Summer of Love CD, which is the only reason why we know it.
Any trace of it on the internet because I've tried to look it up multiple times.
Anyway, it had like all the jams, like Crystal Blue Persuasion and Green the Park and other things.
Oh God, I love that song.
I love that song. But it had the worst song ever, which is Angel of the Morning.
I don't mind the Juice Newton 80s version, but yeah, that original one sucks.
The one with the like Jamaican feel.
Jamaican feel.
You know, darling, you're my angel, you're my
Oh,
darling.
that's Shaggy
angel.
from the 2000s.
And they play that on the radio all the time. Moving along. Number 5, we have Jimi Hendrix with Purple Haze.
Purple Haze.
It's a jam.
Yeah, he was a great guitar player.
It's a jam to listen to. Like, you don't even need to be high to listen to this one. It's just a good one.
Yeah. And our honorable mention, it's one of my favorite groups. It's the Beatles with Tomorrow Never Knows, where you turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream.
Is it not dying?
It is not dying. This is from Revolver, and this is right when like the Beatles are starting to go into their psychedelic phase. And this song's like an acid trip.
I just like all the imagery and the lyrics that I find really cool.
John Lennon was a good
Wordsmith.
Yeah. And that's it for our music spotlight.
Please don't eat paint to these songs.
Please do not.
We were just joking.
If you want to listen to these songs in full, you can check them out on our website.
So thanks for joining us on our very special Dragnet episode. I hope you stay away from LSD and don't eat paint. Join us next week when we'll have a little lighter show talking about fighting evil by moonlight and winning love by daylight. And have a good rest of the month.
Alright, if you want to drop us a line, you can email us at spunkyandsnarkyshow@gmail.com. You can go to our website, which is spunkyandsnarkyshow.wordpress.com. You can leave us a voicemail on our Anchor page, which is anchor.fm/spunkyandsnarkyshow. And you can check out our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok pages and like and reach out there. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace. Bye.